If you've walked through LK Metro recently, you felt it. Something has changed. The atmosphere is different. Bars that used to pulse with energy now sit half empty. Familiar venues have closed, their signs dark, their doors locked. Staff outnumber customers on most nights. The atmosphere has changed. Instead of constant laughter and loud music filling the street, LK Metro now has long stretches of quiet, broken only by occasional sounds from the few bars still trying to keep the energy alive. This isn't just a temporary slump. This isn't just the off-season blues. LK Metro, one of Pattaya's most iconic nightlife streets, is dying. And the reasons why reveal a much bigger story about what's happening not just in this one soi, but across all of Pattaya's nightlife industry. Walk down LK Metro on any given evening and you'll see the evidence everywhere. Catch Me A Go-Go, closed. Cheetah A Go-Go Club, closed. Racer Bar, gone. Exotic Bar, shut down. These weren't marginal operations struggling on the fringes. These were established venues that had operated successfully for years, some for over a decade. Their closure signals something fundamental has shifted in the economics of Pattaya nightlife. The bars that remain open tell an even more revealing story. Walk into any of them and you'll often find more staff than customers. 5 or 6 girls sitting around, scrolling through their phones, waiting for customers who never arrive. The pool tables sit unused. The sports on the big screens play to empty rooms. The music echoes off walls that used to be packed with people. For those who remember LK Metro in its heyday, the contrast is stark. There was a time when you couldn't walk 10 meters without being called into a bar. When every venue was full of laughter, conversation, and the clink of beer bottles. When the street itself was alive with energy, from early evening until the early morning hours. That LK Metro feels like it existed in a different era. To understand why LK Metro is dying, we need to look at who built it in the first place. LK Metro was created for a very specific customer, the Western tourist. Americans, Australians, British, Germans, Scandinavians. Men who came to Pattaya specifically for the nightlife experience. They had disposable income, they spent freely, and they understood the culture of the beer bar and go-go scene. These tourists were the economic engine of LK Metro. They would bar fine girls, buy lady drinks, tip generously, and often stay in Pattaya for weeks or even months at a time. The entire business model was built around their spending patterns and preferences. The music played was Western rock and pop. The sports shown were football, rugby, boxing. The conversation was in English. Everything was calibrated for this demographic. But that demographic has largely disappeared. The Western tourist numbers to Pattaya have been declining for years, and the pandemic accelerated a trend that was already underway. The men who used to come annually now come less frequently. Some have stopped coming entirely. Rising costs back home, changes in retirement funds, health concerns, and the simple reality of aging have all played a role. Adding to this, visa policy uncertainty has driven many long-term Western residents to relocate to other countries with more stable and welcoming visa regulations. Vietnam, Cambodia, and the Philippines now offer more predictable long-term stay options, pulling away the expat community that once formed the backbone of Pattaya's nightlife economy. The tourists who have replaced them come from completely different markets: Chinese tour groups, Russian families, Indian vacationers. These new visitors arrive in large numbers and they contribute to Pattaya's overall tourism statistics. The beaches are still full. The hotels still have decent occupancy. But these tourists have zero interest in what LK Metro offers. Chinese tour groups arrive on organized packages. They eat at Chinese restaurants, shop at designated stores, visit temples and attractions, and return to their hotels by early evening. Their itineraries don't include bar hopping in LK Metro. Their budgets don't include bar fines and lady drinks. The entire experience that LK Metro sells is simply not part of their travel plans. Russian families come to Pattaya for the beaches and the weather. They rent condos, cook their own meals, and spend time at family-friendly attractions. They're not looking for nightlife entertainment. They're looking for affordable tropical sunshine. A Russian family of 4 has no use for a beer bar with girls in bikinis and pool tables. The number of Indian tourists has grown significantly, but their spending habits still don't align with the LK Metro business model. These visitors are mostly attracted to Pattaya because it's more budget-friendly than other Indian tourist destinations. They prefer street food, night markets, and free entertainment, making a 200 baht beer at an LK Metro bar hard to justify for their travel budget. Moreover, when it comes to nightlife, most Indian men tend to spend time on Beach Road, which is crowded with Indian visitors and local girls who favor that area. As a result, LK Metro sees little economic benefit from the surge of Indian tourists. This demographic shift has created a fundamental mismatch. LK Metro exists to serve customers who no longer come in significant numbers, while the customers who do come have no interest in what's being offered. It's like operating a steakhouse in a city that has become predominantly vegetarian. You can keep the restaurant open, but the customer base that made you successful has moved on. But the story gets worse, because Pattaya didn't see this coming. Or more accurately, Pattaya saw the overall tourist numbers and assumed everything would be fine. The industry kept waiting for the high season surge that would save them. November arrived. The weather turned perfect. And then everyone realized the crowds weren't coming, at least not the crowds that matter for nightlife revenue. This is where the situation becomes truly critical. Venue operators had prepared for a normal high season. They'd kept their staff. They'd stocked their bars. They'd paid their rent deposits and renewed their contracts, all based on the expectation that November through February would bring the revenue needed to sustain operations through the slower summer months. But the revenue never materialized. The disconnect became impossible to ignore. Pattaya had visitors filling hotels and beaches, yet bar owners in LK Metro watched their cash registers stay silent. The fundamental mismatch between who was arriving and who the business model needed had become the new reality. The economic pressure this created was immediate and severe. Operating a bar in LK Metro isn't cheap. You have rent, which has steadily increased over the years as landlords see Pattaya as a valuable property market. You have electricity costs, which spike during high season when air conditioning runs constantly. You have staff wages, which by law must meet minimum wage requirements. You have entertainment licensing fees, music royalties, and various other operational expenses. The traditional model of the Pattaya bar also includes significant overhead that many people don't realize. Most bars provide free accommodation for their staff. Small rooms, basic facilities, but free housing nonetheless. They provide utilities, internet, sometimes even food. This was sustainable when revenue was strong, but becomes a massive burden when income drops. Then there's the lady drink system. For decades, this was profitable for bars because customers bought drinks at inflated prices. The bar kept a significant portion, and the girl got a small commission. But as customer numbers declined, bars increased lady drink prices to maintain revenue. What used to cost 80 or 100 baht now costs 150 or 200. The problem is, this price increase drives away even more customers, creating a death spiral of higher prices and lower volumes. Bar fines followed the same trajectory. What used to be 300 baht, then 500, then 1,000, is now commonly 1,500 to 2,500 baht in go-go bars. For a customer, the math becomes increasingly difficult to justify. At these prices, Pattaya is no longer the affordable destination it once was. In fact, it's become expensive compared to alternatives throughout Southeast Asia. Vietnam has emerged as a serious competitor. Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi offer nightlife experiences at a fraction of Pattaya's current costs. The Philippines, particularly Angeles City, provide similar attractions with lower prices. Even Cambodia is pulling tourists who might have previously chosen Pattaya. The regional competition has intensified precisely as Pattaya's costs have risen. And then there's the exchange rate problem. The Thai baht has been remarkably strong against Western currencies. For an American tourist, the exchange rate has moved from around 35 baht per dollar to around 32 or 33. That might not sound dramatic, but it represents nearly a 10% reduction in purchasing power. For European tourists dealing with euro fluctuations, the impact has been even more pronounced. Combine the strong baht with increased local prices, and you get a situation where everything in Pattaya feels expensive to foreign visitors. A meal that used to feel like a bargain now feels overpriced. A beer that was cheap is now just average. A bar fine that was affordable is now a significant expense. The psychological impact of these price shifts cannot be underestimated. Pattaya built its reputation on being affordable. When it's no longer affordable, the fundamental value proposition disappears. For the women working in LK Metro bars, This economic squeeze has been devastating. Many of these women came from rural Thailand, from farming communities in Isan and other poor regions. They came to Pattaya because bar work offered income that was impossible to earn in their home villages. In the good years, a woman could make 30, 40, even 50,000 baht a month between salary, lady drinks, and bar fines. She could support her family, send money home, save for the future. That economic model has collapsed. With fewer customers, lady drinks have dried up. With no bar fines, that income source has disappeared. Many women are now surviving on just their basic salary, which might be only 12 to 15,000 baht per month. Out of that, they still need to pay for food, phone bills, personal expenses, and sending money to family back home. The math simply doesn't work. Some women have left Pattaya entirely, returning to their home provinces or seeking other work. Others have moved to Bangkok, where the go-go scene, while also struggling, still has more customers than LK Metro. Some have shifted to online work, using social media and dating apps to find customers directly rather than waiting in empty bars. The traditional bar scene is losing its workers because it can no longer provide viable income. This workforce exodus creates another problem for bar owners. Even if customers do walk in, they find bars with fewer staff, less attractive women, and lower energy. The best-looking and most personable women have already left for better opportunities. What remains is often a skeleton crew of women who have no other options. This further reduces the appeal of the bars, driving away even more potential customers. The venues that have closed represent significant financial losses. Opening a bar in Pattaya requires substantial investment. Rent deposits, renovation costs, furniture, sound systems, lighting, decorations, initial stock. A modest bar might require 500,000 to 1 million baht to open. A go-go bar could require several million. When these venues close, those investments are largely lost. The fixtures might be sold off for a fraction of their value. The rest is simply written off. Some bar owners have tried to adapt. They've lowered prices, offered promotions, changed their entertainment offerings. But these efforts have largely failed because the fundamental problem isn't pricing or entertainment quality. The problem is that the customers they need simply aren't in Pattaya anymore. You can offer the cheapest beer in Thailand, but if there's no one walking past your bar who wants to drink it, you'll still sit empty. There's also a generational component to this decline. The Western men who traditionally came to Pattaya were often older, from generations that had different attitudes toward this type of entertainment. Younger Western travelers, even those who might be interested in nightlife, have different preferences. They're more interested in clubs, beach parties, and social media-friendly experiences than sitting in a beer bar having conversations with bar girls. The younger generation also has different attitudes toward the entire bar fine and go-go culture. What was accepted or even celebrated by previous generations is now often viewed more critically. Social media has made everything more visible and more permanent. A young traveler knows that photos from a go-go bar could end up online, potentially affecting their reputation or career. The culture has shifted in ways that make Pattaya's traditional offerings less appealing to younger demographics. Meanwhile, Pattaya itself has made efforts to rebrand as a family-friendly destination. The local government wants to attract Chinese families, Southeast Asian middle-class tourists, and convention business. They've invested in water parks, shopping malls, and cultural attractions. This rebranding makes sense from a tourism development perspective, but it creates cognitive dissonance with the existing nightlife infrastructure. You can't be both a family destination and an adult entertainment capital. As for Walking Street, it too is changing. Indian investors are increasingly buying up clubs and venues throughout the street, fundamentally changing its character. What was once Pattaya's most famous Western nightlife destination is gradually becoming an Indian entertainment zone, with Indian-oriented discos, restaurants, and music dominating the scene. This demographic shift is so pronounced that some longtime expats now refer to it as Little India or Delhi by the Sea. LK Metro specifically suffers from a lack of innovation that's remarkable given how long these problems have been developing. Walk through the Soe and you see the same basic setup that existed 10 or 15 years ago. Pool tables, sports on TV, girls in bikinis or short dresses, beer, and loud music. Nothing has evolved. Nothing has adapted to changing tastes or new customer segments. As one industry veteran noted, This formula simply won't work anymore, but no one seems willing or able to try something different. Part of this stagnation comes from the economics of bar ownership in Pattaya. Many bars are owned by foreigners who are themselves on tight budgets. They bought or opened a bar as much for lifestyle reasons as business reasons. They're not professional hospitality operators with capital to invest in renovations and new concepts. They're retired or semi-retired individuals who wanted to live in Pattaya and thought owning a bar would be fun. When the business model stops working, they lack the resources or expertise to pivot. The landlords who own the properties in LK Metro face different incentives. Their goal is to maximize rent revenue, and they've been able to do so for years because demand for bar spaces was strong. Even as bars struggle, landlords have been slow to reduce rents because they're holding out for the market to recover. This creates a standoff where bars can't afford current rents, but landlords won't reduce prices, resulting in empty spaces that benefit no one. Looking at the current situation, it's difficult to see how LK Metro recovers without fundamental changes that seem unlikely to happen. The customer base that made it successful is gone. The tourists who are coming to Pattaya have no interest in what it offers. Prices are too high and continue rising. Competition from other destinations is intensifying. The workforce is leaving. Innovation is absent. Some might argue that Pattaya has weathered difficult periods before and always bounced back. This is true. The Asian financial crisis in the late 1990s devastated Thai tourism, but Pattaya recovered. Political instability and coups have periodically hurt arrivals, but the tourists eventually returned. Even the pandemic, as catastrophic as it was, seemed temporary. But this situation feels different because it's not a temporary shock that will pass. This is a structural shift in tourism patterns, customer demographics, and economic fundamentals. The world that created LK Metro's success has changed in ways that aren't reversing. Western retirees aren't suddenly going to become young and wealthy again. Asian middle-class tourists aren't going to develop an interest in beer bars and go-go clubs. Exchange rates and inflation aren't going to suddenly make Pattaya cheap again. The most likely scenario is continued decline. More bars will close. The street will become increasingly empty. Property owners may eventually convert bar spaces to other uses. Restaurants, shops, massage parlors, anything that might generate income. LK Metro might persist in some reduced form, serving a small core of loyal customers and die-hard enthusiasts. But the vibrant, busy, profitable street of years past isn't coming back. This isn't just a story about one street in one city. It's a story about what happens when a business model becomes obsolete but no one wants to acknowledge it. It's about demographic and economic shifts that render entire industries unsustainable. It's about the gap between expectations and reality, between what operators hoped would happen during high season and what actually occurred. For the people whose livelihoods depended on LK Metro, this is a tragedy unfolding in slow motion. Bar owners who invested their savings watch those investments evaporate. Women who came to Pattaya seeking economic opportunity find themselves trapped in a dying industry with few alternatives. Long-term residents who loved the energy and community of LK Metro watch their social world disappear. The broader question is what this means for Pattaya as a whole. If LK Metro can die, what about other nightlife areas? Walking Street faces many of the same pressures, though its transformation into an Indian entertainment district gives it a different trajectory. Soy Buakaw, Soy Diana, and other entertainment zones all rely on the same customer base that's disappearing. The entire model of Pattaya as an adult entertainment destination is under question. Perhaps Pattaya will successfully transition to being a family destination, attracting different tourists and developing different industries. Perhaps the nightlife scene will persist in reduced form, serving a smaller niche market. Perhaps something new and unexpected will emerge. But for LK Metro specifically, the trajectory seems clear. The street is dying, and short of dramatic and unlikely changes, that decline will continue until the last bars close and the last lights go dark. So what do you think? Can LK Metro recover, or is this the end of an era? Have you witnessed similar changes in Pattaya's nightlife? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this analysis helpful, don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on the latest developments in Thailand's nightlife scene and hit that like button to support more in-depth content like this.